Hello, welcome to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at diabloinkgamers.com. I'm your host, Flux, and I'm joined on the show tonight by Neinball.
Guten Abend.
Well said. And by Holyknight.
Good evening.
And since Holyknight's here, we're going to talk about fan art for 3.5 hours. Fan art, fan art, fan art.
The shinies. So pretty.
What's your favorite piece of fan art ever, Neinball?
My favorite piece of fan art ever, that would probably be kind of close in between. They're both by Templar Painter. One is the Imperius and the other one is the Mephisto. Those are amazing. And then also, he's done the Maggot Cave. Was also just... He's probably my favorite fan artist that's out there.
Well, bonus points for having an answer. That was... I think most people will be like, what?
Yeah, because Templar Painter is fantastic. It's nice of him to let me use his art for that Valentine's Day wallpaper, too. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can ask you that question, Holyknight, because you have so many favorites. You'd be like a parent choosing which child to save in the canoe.
Well, while you ask
Titanic.
him that, I'm going to go and grab something to eat, and I'll be back in 45 minutes to continue.
Yes, exactly.
Well, technically, I do have...
He likes all the pictures.
Well, I find them, I like them, but I personally have... The one that Unit Color made there with that female Demon Hunter is still a pinnacle. The rival is that new one by, I think it's Ashtone or something, that one black and white one. That's just beautiful. But then you got Templar Painter there, which, yeah, knock it out of the park. There's the top three.
Okay, we'll let that stand. And obviously, you post fan art every week, at least once. Holyknight.
If not
so
twice,
like
if I get plenty of decent amount. But I wait and, just kind of...
Yeah. So you curate, we have, how many are in the gallery now? Thousands?
Gotta be. Let's see here.
If people are interested in fan art, obviously, you do a weekly post with several new pictures, and you update them all in the gallery, so there's infinite numbers. But
it's nearing 1,000 almost now. It says 967 in the gallery right now. Ooh.
It's over 9,000, almost.
Indeed.
Okay, so getting to non-fan art topics, other things of really importance for the Diablo community. The Winter Olympics, apparently they ended today. I didn't even know, but I saw an article saying they ended because America didn't win all the gold medals this time.
Aww.
Yes. Well, I think it was something along the lines that Russia came out of nowhere, grabbed a whole bunch of golds, and then won everything, like, in the last day, I think.
Well, good for them.
Yes.
Stats and run.
Don't you feel good when other countries that actually have winter and mountains win all these medals and they're so excited and it's like, oh, we didn't win curling or speed skating. It's like, really? Have you ever in your life known anyone or anywhere who could speed skate or curl?
No, off the top of my head.
I've lived in Florida for most of my life. So.
Yeah.
The last time you saw outdoor ice, Neinball, it was in a margarita.
A mojito.
It's
a mojito.
It's cold where you live, Holyknight,
yeah.
But where's the nearest mountain? It's completely flat. What, do you have to go to, like, Denver to find mountains?
Pretty much at this place. There's a mountain in Kansas. It's called Mount Sunflower. It's apparently an extinct volcano. Woo.
And it's what, like 1,000 feet?
Something like that. It's a little
Yeah, that's...
Random Florida trivia fact for you for the day. There is a mountain in Florida. It's called Mount Iron. It's about 400 feet tall. Highest point in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Thumbs up.
And that'll be the only point in Florida in 10 years when the ice caps completely can finish melting. So
right.
You can be kind of crowded, but you'll still enjoy it.
Plenty of beach space there.
Yes, I think probably the Winter Olympics are a much bigger deal in Europe where they have winter and mountains. And it's kind of in the U.S. It's like, hey, we have some weird snowboarding event that some like 16-year-old hippie won. Oh boy, cheers, celebrate. And he'll be on TMZ smoking a bong at a party in 2 weeks. It'll be a scandal, but no one cares other than that. So. Anyway, moving on. Diablo 3 stuff. We're all doing a Reaper of Souls beta testing still, and probably some of us have been doing too much. I've been playing enough for both of you put together, I think. But some of the recent news, I guess we should get right at the start. There was data mine details some weeks ago that there was going to be these Wings of Valor, Imperius golden shiny wings, and it wasn't quite sure what they were going to be. And then just yesterday, there was an interview that Josh was in from Korea confirming that goes for anybody who pre-orders the game. So had both of you already pre-ordered, and if not, would you have been doing so to get the wings, and are you excited about wings?
Well, I'll go first. The wings are awesome. I already like the Tyrael wings as it is, so getting this was great. I already pre-ordered the day that I could pre-order at my local GameStop, which was like a day or two, I think. So the wings are a bonus. Yay!
Do you have wings, Neinball?
Oh yeah, pretty much the same here. I pre-ordered the collector's edition a long time ago, so it was just kind of like an added perk for it.
And now you're going to the launch party. You're going to get another collector's edition,
Yay!
but without wings. You'll
Without-
just get you'll get the stupid blue dog.
Yes.
Do you already have the stupid blue dog on the beta realm?
I do not, because I pre-ordered a physical copy, not the digital one.
Yeah, likewise for
Does
me.
it still exist? Yeah, I played with someone yesterday. Who was that with? Oh, it was a Water Fiend, and he had the blue dog.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I mean, it's like a Chihuahua. It's just this tiny little thing. I don't know. They got to do something with that.
And they recently increased its size as well. It used to be even smaller.
Yeah, it's like Yokiro Rat Dog. I don't
See,
get it. I mean, you barely even notice it's there.
If only we could have had him actually, when you nearly kill a mob, if he was big enough, he would do his bite and chew toy animation and kill it. Just out of the fun and lulz, that would have been nice. But hey,
Yeah, it should eat corpses or pee on them or something.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't think it's a. Anyway, it's no wings.
yeah,
That's for sure.
maybe-
I hadn't pre-ordered, by the way.
What if-
I'm getting my only copy of the game at the launch event, so that'll be me. No wings for me.
What if
No.
you could put the wings on the dog?
That'd be cool.
And then it would fly away and never be seen again.
Oh, lonely person is lonely.
Okay, so other thing, all the streams lately, the Blizzard developers, Lylirium emailed us like 3 weeks ago saying they were going to do this and if we'd be interested, etc. And obviously was doing it, emailing lots of other people at the same time, and setting up all these streams. And it was sort of this casual thing. Developers, not a real interview, not a real detailed interview. Just you're playing the game together and kind of having a chat session and getting some insight into stuff. And they don't like they ration out their interviews in dribs and dops. They're very seldom do you get fan sites and community people get to do interviews. And there's going to be, I'm sure, a huge rush of them coming on launch night with Wired and New York Times and all these major media outlets in the next couple of weeks. But they really don't do those with fan sites much because that's preaching to the choir, I guess, right? As you guys just said, you both already pre-ordered.
Right.
So.
It just makes more excite going around with the buzz. That's about it.
Yeah, but so they had these conversations. I was on one with John Yang, who's doing a lot of the dev on items and the Demon Hunter and the Barbarian, and I thought we had a pretty good chat. And he's actually very good at discussing stuff while playing. I mean, it's kind of hard to give lucid, detailed answers about balancing and stuff while you're trying to manage your hotkeys and not die to some Rift Guardian. But so did you guys watch a number of those streams, and what was your general impression, Neinball? What did you get from them? Were you happy with how they went, or would you rather have not seen them or seen real interviews instead?
No, I was really happy with them because they answered things in a way that just they probably wouldn't have if it was a regular interview, and because you had the much larger time frame because they laid out the hour to just kind of have the casual conversation. I feel that there was opportunities to ask a lot of questions, those small questions that you might not have asked otherwise. I think like just some of the minor things like how you're balancing the classes or their thoughts on some of the different skills.
Did you enjoy them, Neinball? I mean, Holyknight, and why was mine the best?
I'm going to be the one guy in the room and say I didn't get a chance to watch him yet because of, outside circumstances. I was going to watch him soon, though.
Well, just listen, actually. The visual has nothing to add to it.
Oh, yeah, well, it gives me something to have run on the other screen or something.
Yeah. Well, good answer. That's why you're on the podcast.
Sorry.
I thought it was good. I was actually a little impressed with how John was well spoken and he was able to answer all the questions. He didn't duck anything.
Mm-hmm.
Some people didn't like some of his answers, like especially the whole barbarian nerfing thing was the first question I asked. Of course, I had to term it in my usual polite fashion. Why does Blizzard hate barbarians? Which they had specifically said in an email beforehand. They were like, "Here's some things we shouldn't ask. Don't ask about Wings of Imperius. Don't ask why we hate characters." So of course, that was my first question. But see, I did it with an ironic detachment, so it was okay. That's why Blizzard loves us. So
how long ago did they say don't ask about the Imperius Wings? Because that got asked, I think, in 2 of the other interviews.
That was an email before mine. Maybe
Okay.
that because that came up in the first 2. I was
Yeah.
like the 3rd or 4th one, so they were like, "Yeah, let's do it this way." People were wondering who was what. When they first sent the email, they were like, "What characters are you playing, and who do you want to talk to, and are there any topics you're really interested in?" And I think a lot of people are just playing like one class or 2 classes, and I've played every class but the Witch Doctor in the current patch to 70. So I said, I'm happy to talk about any of these classes. I've got all these characters at 70. They can all play in Torment and multiplayer. And Leather was like, "Oh, good. We'll put you wherever there's an open spot." And I think there are probably people who were like, "I've only played the Witch Doctor. That's all I care about." And like, "Well, I guess you'll be with Wyatt then because Wyatt's our Witch Doctor guy."
Yeah.
So I think that I was probably a useful utility player in that sense that I could just be slotted in wherever. So there wasn't like some huge hierarchy of who goes first and who talks to who. Unless, of course, you said, I really want to talk about the barbarian, so I need the barbarian guy. But I think they had lots of people for all these things, and they were probably shuffling around who's going to go where, etc.
Yeah, I think that's
So,
also, learning that actually makes it even better because they're specifically trying to get people, tied with the developers that they're more interested in asking questions about.
That and they actually have an idea of what's going on better than other certain people. If they play this class, then they know more ins and outs, then they can play better. Do everything better.
yeah, they actually asked me to play a barbarian. It was funny because they had said, "Well, we want a mixed group," and for some reason, the two guys on the podcast with me were both playing a wizard, which is like the most overpowered class in the game right now, basically. But so they were that. I was the only tank, and then the developer was playing a demon hunter. So I was basically just sort of running in front and pounding everything, and this massive artillery support coming over my head. But it was actually a fairly fun play session. I mean, I think we did 4 rifts on Torment, and it's ridiculous how easy Torment 1 is when you're with 4 characters who are pretty well geared.
Mm-hmm.
Like my Barb would by himself struggles through Torment. He's got good survivability, but he doesn't kill very fast in it. And it was just ridiculous how fast we were doing it with 4 people. Plus the devs have really awesome gear. I'm posting an article tomorrow, basically once I go through all the screenshots. So we had to get friends on the friends list to play. And they've created this account that's just called Stream, and so I'm friends with now the Stream account that they're using for this. And it had pre-made characters on all of them, which all have like these awesome Torment-only sets that I'd never even seen anyone find before, and legendary items as well. And that'll come up in a later topic on the podcast. But I saw a bunch of items I'd never seen anyone find or displayed. I'm like, oh, that's what you can find if you do Torment for 500 hours,
Yeah, I remember seeing some of those items. What was it? I think the most impressive one that I saw was, Andrew Chambers for the Crusader.
Yeah, I took screenshots of every item they had. There's no monk on the account, alas. Maybe there's one now. I should check again. But the other 5 were all very well geared. The wizard had the highest DPS I've ever seen on a character, even higher than my demon hunters is right now. Slightly higher than my demon hunters. I actually have more DPS on my own demon hunter than they had on the one on the account, though. So it's a belief for me. But we'll get to that later. But any other thoughts on those streams, Neinball? You watched several of them, and were you on one? Would you have liked to have been on one, and how would you have done it if you'd been there?
Well, I would have enjoyed being on one, though. I mean, I don't have any 70 softcore characters, so that would have been a little bit difficult because that would be something to have.
Oh, you can make one in like an hour.
Yeah,
or so.
have to work on one in the future. But yeah, I really enjoyed that format. I think it was something that could be done. And it's just a nice, easy conversation. It takes an hour of time for the developer. It's something that could be done on kind of, like a regular basis. I was, I'd definitely enjoy to see more, and would, of course, love to be on them because I had a bunch of questions for the Crusader, which not all of them got asked. But something for the future.
I actually volunteered you guys when they first emailed me about it. I said, we have lots of people on the podcast who are really knowledgeable about the game and are used to talking while they play because Panda, and they would love to be on this. And if you need additional people, I can offer you options. And that was not taken up on, so it wasn't. Not for lack of trying, though.
Yeah.
Maybe next beta, right?
Yeah, they definitely seem to branch it out because the big fan sites, Diablo Fans and Gamers, obviously got referenced in there, and then they went to a bunch of the really big and popular streamers in order to just kind of give a good level of coverage for the fan base that's out there.
Yeah, they obviously want an outreach. I mean, getting 10 people from the same fan site doesn't do them much good because they've already got that fan site, So
right.
So they want to get streamers who maybe aren't doing that much. Obviously, they're trying to get streamers back into Reaper of Souls now. I mean, it's a vastly better game than most of Diablo 3 was currently, which is certainly helpful. But we're all sellouts and fanboys, so of course we would say that, right?
Oh, of course.
Indeed.
Yeah, so getting into that topic, just general Reaper of Souls feedback. You guys have been playing lately. I wrote an article a couple weeks ago or a week ago. I said awesome patch is awesome, and I mean I think that's really the case. I've been playing way too much. It's really fun. I really wish it was live now because I'm gaining all this experience, and I found numerous really cool items lately. I'm like, these are all going to be gone in a month, and I'll never see them again. Unhappy Panda.
Oh,
so what have you been playing lately, Neinball, and what are you thinking about it?
I've actually been playing since they did some of the changes to the Crusader, particularly the melee abilities. I've been playing that over my wizard again. I've been having a lot of fun doing the fire shield thrower, the Captain America, all flamey and such. So that's been a lot of fun.
My monk's gonna hate me for a while because Crusader is my favorite class in this game. Everything about it, everything how it plays, it just feels awesome. Shield throw, love it. The second I got it, I had the one that gives you the stun, so I could throw it and bounce, hit multiple targets to give me a slight out sometimes when it gets rough too. But you see me on the horse all the time. I'm freaking bailing whenever I can, and just yeah, damage, run, damage, run. I'm not as much of a tank right now, but hey, I'm trading it for damage. So I love it. I can't wait for it to all be live so I can actually make this character exist.
How do you feel about the power of it, Neinball? You're playing hardcore with your Crusader. Are you able to, can you torment, or how strong is your character, and how do you feel the balance, the pros and cons? Because my Crusader feels a little weak compared to my other classes.
Yeah, I get it. It's weird with this particular build. I can handle large packs of mobs like with no problem, because when I'm in the thick of things, I have like 52% block chance, and you heal for the 13,000 health every time that you blocked. And Crusaders are just naturally tanky, so he's not taking a lot of damage, and I explode for fire damage whenever I block. So packs of enemies go down very quick, but when it's just one mob, my survivability as well as my damage kind of cuts down a little bit. So I've been keeping it with to expert and going into masters every once in a while, but yeah, my damage just isn't quite there yet for torment for me to feel comfortable. I could probably survive, but it would take me forever to kill things because I'm sitting around like 400,000 damage, and it doesn't feel as good as my wizard, which is also 400,000 damage, but can just two shots everything with the meteor build.
Is that the damage you're seeing in the game in the C window or in the character inspect screen?
That is the C window.
Yeah, that's usually a higher number than the inspect screen for some reason.
Yeah, it's probably because of the buffs kicking in when you're in the games. Why you don't see the buffs on the other screens.
Yeah, and what is your toughness and hit points on those Neinball, since you're hardcore? For people listening, wondering what they're going to need to have.
Right now, I'm toughness at I think it's like 6.5 million and 420,000 health.
And what's in your hat? Amethyst or a diamond or what?
Actually, a topaz.
Topaz.
Yeah, so I've just been, I got.
I realize MF doesn't work anymore, right?
Yeah, it's only the 10% bonus, but it's with the Paragon not really having a cap, so there's only like the soft goal of the Paragon level 800. I'm not as concerned about gaining the experience, and because my survivability is already really good, and I have more of a problem actually just killing things, I decided to put the topaz in for the very, very minor increase in the legendary drops.
I did topaz for a while earlier in the beta, and I didn't notice any difference. I was using all leftover MF gear on my mercs too, so I was getting for a while the Kane set was giving you 100% magic find also. And I just noticed no difference between that and characters without anything, and so I've just sort of given up on that. And you notice I didn't mention Ruby because it's beta, so it's like experience. Who really cares?
Yeah.
Even though it's like crazy fast now with Paragon levels.
Yeah. I guess that's one of the big things I've noticed since the last couple of patches. With they lowered the experience curve for the Paragon levels, as well as doubling the drop rates of the legendaries. The kind of the playtime reward aspect of it is, I think, in a really good area and is just amazing because you go through and you can play, and maybe you only have like 45 minutes to play, and you do a couple bounties, like a couple acts worth of bounties. You might not find a legendary, but you'll gain like a Paragon level, and it just has a really good reward structure in the way that it feels. That even if you put a little bit of time, you're going to find a legendary, you're going to gain a Paragon level, and it gives you something that it's like, oh, I actually accomplished something, even in a small time frame. And if you're playing for a weekend binge session, you're going to find a couple upgrades and you get a couple levels.
Yeah, I wonder what that's like. So how's the experience working for you, Holyknight? Everyone, we had for a whole patch, you would gain like half a level a week, and now it's like you gain 4 levels a game.
Yeah,
it's just crazy.
If not more, depending on what you've got. Because whenever I play, when I have time, I used to try to get at least 2 or more hours, before or after Pandaland, and I get plenty of like 3 or 4, maybe 5 levels, even more, just depending. Especially if we do some, a game with more than one person, it just goes even faster.
Yeah, if you do 4 players, it's crazy. The other day, my Crusader, I got completely dragged through by 2 other guys in the guild who are playing a Witch Doctor. Witch Doctor seems like the most powerful character in the game right now, actually, with Piranado and Zombie Bears. It's just devastate packs, and you get Gruesome Ward and Grim Feast, or whatever those skills are called. I haven't played a Witch Doctor, but I've almost wanted to, just because I see how fast it is when he's playing that. But that and another guy playing a high-level wizard, and my Crusader was just junk. He's like my worst geared character at 70. And I gained like 11 levels in like 3 hours of drift. It was just,
Wow.
I mean, actually, I think it was less than 3 hours even. But I mean, like I wasn't even doing the Paragon points. I didn't want to stop for it. And we finished our game session. I looked and I had like 5,444 on the tabs. I was like, holy shit.
The
And yeah, so Paragon points seemed really kind of negligible when we were first discussing them months ago, back when you would level up once a month.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get like you can get four levels in a couple hours, it really seems to matter. I mean, like I've noticed, I'm actually getting, I think I'm up to 191 now in softcore, and I was like 129 when the beta started. So it's just gone up crazy in the past few weeks. But as I'm getting close to 200, I'm getting excited because I can finally start putting points in another thing in a couple of tabs. Like I've been putting every point into critical hit damage on my Demon Hunter, and I'm up to 48 points now. It's like only 2 more, and I can start putting them in IAS instead. And obviously I could do that now, but it's just as you see them gaining, Paragon points seem like a pretty cool thing now. When you're getting, if you're thinking about, I'll be able to get 400 or 500 of these in a few months, as opposed to I'll be at 147 for the next year. They're tiny, but they add up quickly. So are you more excited about Paragon points now, Holyknight, as you're finally getting some?
Definitely. It's actually increased on my Crusader's damage some more. I'm reaching up to almost 800k DPS myself, but like I said, the trade-off is I'm at 4.5 to 5 million toughness, but it helps greatly. It'll probably help even greater whenever I decide to unabandon my monk.
How are your Paragon levels split up between hardcore and softcore 9-ball? And you've been doing mostly hardcore in the beta?
Yeah, I've mostly been doing a hardcore in the beta. I have been leveling a Demon Hunter on softcore and playing around a little bit with that one because I've lost a couple Demon Hunters trying to level one on the beta and see what it's like. And so I figured, what the hell, I'll just do it on softcore so I can get a feel for it. It actually is. I'm doing more or less kind of the same point allocation on both of them. Whichever, obviously in the offense tab, it's whichever one gives you the higher paper doll damage, or whichever one is going to work better for your spec. If you have abilities that work off of crit chance, you'll value that one a little bit more than attack speed, even if it says it's not as big of a damage increase. And then same thing for defense. Usually, until your gear gets better, resist all is going to be your best stat. Then it'll switch over to either life or armor. So it's always one good thing to look at. And then from there, it's in like the utility. I've mainly been putting all my points into life on hit, because it makes it so where you don't even really need it on gear. It's really, really easy. If you have a decent toughness, you don't need that much life on hit, compared to what you needed at 60 on, Monster Power 10. And then,
you do on Torment too.
Yeah.
Yeah, life on hit and regen are really are huge bonuses from Paragon. It allows you to go almost all DPS on your gear.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have more life on hit and regen just from Paragon points than most of my characters had at 60 and D3, and that was hardcore characters. And now it's essentially getting it for free from Paragon points. So
just imagine what it's going to be like if you're around, Paragon 500 and you have, life on hit and the life per second, and those tabs filled out, and maxed. You're practically going to need
ridiculous.
Yeah. It's a lot of the survivability that you need on your gear is going to be made obsolete just through the Paragon system, and that is kind of like you notice, of course, in Diablo 3 Classic, where everyone in the beginning built defensively in order to try and get through Inferno, because it was the only way people could survive to kill things. And then eventually damage eclipsed defensive stats, and you're able to kill things before they could kill you. And in Reaper, it's almost built in like that. Because of the Paragon system, you don't have to care as much about your defensive stats on your character, because a lot of what you need is going to be handled once you're sufficiently high enough level.
Yeah, good point. You win the podcast.
Yay!
Good seed.
I just posted, Xanth had a new column up today about hardcore issues in the beta, and one of the things he's mentioning is experience gain and Paragon points. And I was thinking about that, realizing how many Paragon points I've added lately, and I mean Paragon levels, and I'm not using rubies and hats, I'm hardly using Hellfire rings, I'm not really bothering that much with the pools of reflection. I mean, obviously you get them if you can, but I've been doing a lot of Torment 1 and Torment 2 with my softcore characters, so they die once in a while, and then you lose 8 stacks of pool. You're like, oh, but it's just EXP in the beta, and who cares?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, when this thing goes live and I'm playing hardcore characters, I'm probably going to be, playing it safe, staying in hard and expert, and just grinding along. But I'll definitely have, you got to gear up before you can go to Torment. You need to get a lot of Legendaries and really improve your gear. But if I'm chugging along in that with Hellfire Rings on my Merc and Hellfire Ring on me and a Ruby in my hat and Pools of Reflection, you're going to be making just crazy experience gain. And you're thinking, it really makes a difference when Paragons. So you'll be grinding for gear and really buffing up your entire account with those Paragon points coming in when you never lose those when you die. So it's really sort of an investment in time in hardcore is really going to pay dividends. Have you been imagining how you're going to just grind for those and try to get, hey, I'm Paragon 400 now. I mean, that'll add, having like 200 more Paragon points basically lets you play like a difficulty level or two higher, even with the exact same gear.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So really just grinding that is going to make a huge difference long term for people. Even if it gives you a sense of progression. Even if you're not finding any gear that day, like you just said, Neinball, you gain levels, and that's really, for the long term, all around good.
Yeah, because it's like, say you gain, you play for a week, you play for a couple hours on a Saturday, you gain 5 levels, that's 300 extra life on hit, that's 10 or 15 all resists, like 0.5% crit. It's going to be, a pretty decent upgrade. It's almost as if you found an upgrade just from the Paragon points on its own.
Another thing I realized on that some months ago, you recall at the high level of economy in Diablo 3, which of course still exists on the auction house, if you add like 1% more crit on a really good item, it's like a billion gold.
That's
so adding 1% crit doesn't mean a whole lot if you're kind of mediocre gear. You can get that on a better pair of gloves or whatever. But when you look at the very highest level stuff, you add that trifecta stat to a ring or something, and it's like, the price goes up 10 times. And now you're getting that for free with Paragon points. So, people are like, oh, who cares about another 2% crit chance? Well, try to buy that on the auction house today, then you'll see how much people care. So I think that we'll get a sense of this is really awesome and valuable once we're really going for it full time. And I will change the topic unless any of you guys want to jump in on Paragon points again.
No, I think...
Okay, good. Okay, moving on. Legendary items. Build-changing legendary items is sort of the big... the dream in the sky. The glowing Diablo pinata falling from above is a build-changing gear. And obviously not every legendary is build-changing, but some are. I have a couple of recent examples that I have actually been using, but I will give one of you guys the chance to go first. Have you found anything, Holyknight, that you would consider build-changing, or is it just, a little more DPS and it makes me happy?
Well, for me, getting the... well, let's see. I know that I've gotten some weapons that have just added so much more fun to everything. And, well, my Merc, he still has them from the previous patch, that, the Orc one-handed mace staff. That thing just, say you're in a pinch somewhere and there's a lot of mobs nearby. Well, he's attacking something, it procs, clears the room out, and then you add the Hellfire Ring proc, which helps clear the room even more. I'm practically building my character with the Merc having those two those two items plus a few other things. Just a little extra fun stuff. Just really just makes it, yeah.
It's ironic given that you play World of Warcraft so much, where it's all about being in a clan, and yet your major point in Diablo 3 is this is good on my Merc, which is only viable single player.
Well,
why aren't you panda partying up in Diablo 3?
Well, to be quite honest, I would love it if they would let us just have our darn Mercs with us and our friends, like Diablo 2. Then it'd be even better, because the Merc would be helping a lot.
How about you, Neinball? Any build-changing gear for you that's made everything all different and better and wonderful and shiny?
No, I think most of the things that I've come across have just been, flat damage increase, or it'll be like I'm using a Scourge on my Crusader right now, which is just, you have a chance of attacking of exploding for, I think it's something around like 200% weapon damage. It's a pretty decent chunk. It hits harder than Punish. But, yeah, nothing I found so far is really build changing.
Well, get back to work.
I know. I need to grind more.
I had a number of for a while I had a shoulders that I feared one of the legendaries that it sits out fan of knives when you get hit, some percent chance. I think it's 19%. And those are on my Monk, and for a while, those were absolutely spectacular if you got reflex damage bosses, where every single time you took damage, it had a chance of proccing this, and when you're getting something like that with like sweeping wind in effect, you're basically proccing like 10 times a second. And I would get reflex damage bosses, and I would just look like a rows of knives for about 3 seconds, and then they would die. It was so awesome. I would just run around hoping and hoping that the next boss would have reflex damage, because if it did, I could kill it in literally 2 seconds, just standing still. Unfortunately, a couple patches ago, they changed that proc rate to something a little more reasonable. So now it's a nice sort of added bonus thing, but it's not that big a deal, and it doesn't make a reflex damage thorn themselves to death instantaneously. The really cool one I found recently, my Demon Hunter found a Krindershot yesterday, which is a bow that makes elemental arrow generate 4 hatred instead of costing hatred, and that changes everything.
Oh,
That's what the
Nice.
dev was using. That's what John was using in the play session on his Demon Hunter. And so suddenly, instead, basically, you're using elemental arrow, which is often people's main attack skill. That is now your hatred generator. And so you can pair that with whatever, rapid fire or something. And obviously it's huge damage. It's 300% damage. I'm using the elemental, the lightning ball one, of course.
Yep.
And you're just nonstop spamming that. And the first place I noticed that it was really fun was any one of those red chests, cursed chests that give you waves, or especially that gave you, kill 100 in the timer.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are just endless trash mobs. And when you can just sit there and nonstop just spam endlessly elemental orbs, they just die as soon as they appear, and you're full hatred the entire time. The other thing that changed is I was suddenly always full hatred. I have a really high DPS. My Demon Hunter was actually over 1.5, 1500k was my DPS standing in town. And you said earlier, Neinball, your Crusader was at 400k.
Yeah.
And I was doing almost 4 times that with this Demon Hunter, so I was really geared up with her. And that was with using, the passives that add damage. Obviously, you don't have those with a Crusader, so it's kind of a paper number. But I had to cut that a little because I had to go down in damage to use the Krindershot. But it's just spectacularly effective. But suddenly, I always had full hatred, and so I switched. I actually changed Paragon Points that were adding max hatred because I didn't need it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I took Vengeance off as what do they call it now? Blood Vengeance is the passive. I didn't need that anymore. So I was able to change something else. I was using a Gnat's Cloak that had plus hatred generation on it. I changed that to a bonus damage to a skill, to Rain of Vengeance. So basically just not needing this much, not needing that much vengeance anymore, not needing I was being full of resource, just made a wild difference. And basically I wanted another skill that didn't exist because I've been using Rapid Fire, which is the best damage output.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need that anymore. I wanted something that was like double the damage of rapid fire at double the resource cost because I only needed it for short bursts to finish off bosses, basically. And that doesn't exist. I was actually trying like every skill in the game, thinking, what else could I use here since I have so much hatred now?
Cluster arrow.
Yeah, but that's sort of a tack on once in a while, right?
Yeah.
And I'm already using Rain of Vengeance. I use the one that does a big circle, which is just spectacular damage. I mean, I might try other ones as well, but that one it ends the entire screen of anything instantly. And I'm really trying to get the 4th piece of Nat's set, which cuts the cooldown on Rain of Vengeance for 1 second for each enemy you kill in it. And it's a 30-second cooldown, and it's about an 6 or 8 second spell, and I have a couple of other cooldown reduction items on me. And if I got that, I could basically use Rain of Vengeance every 10 seconds with an 8-second cooldown. So it would just be almost non-stop Rain of Vengeance. If I ever find that 4th item, I can't. I found frickin' 3 hats, 3 cloaks, and 3 boots, and I can't find a ring or a bow. Of course, I guess I can't use the bow now that I've got the Krindershot.
Oh, well, couldn't you just trade for it?
Yeah, wait, maybe not.
Yeah.
I actually had found the last 3 items that I found, the last 3 weapons. I found a Danetta's Spite that was actually spectacular. That was actually what I was using. That leaves a decoy behind when you vault for a second or so, and monsters will target the decoy. So it's kind of like the Witch Doctor's Spirit Walk almost, and that you leave a decoy behind. And if you have the other piece of that, Danetta's Revenge, which I also have, they're both one-handed expos, that one causes every vault to have the rune effect where it knocks things back and stuns them if you land on them. And if you use them both at once, vault costs hatred instead of discipline. So essentially you can vault forever. Every time you vault, it knocks back and stuns targets, and you leave a decoy behind whenever you do vault, so they'll attack that. So I could see that almost being viable in hardcore. This is just a crazy combination. I haven't actually used them both together. I'm playing softcore. Who cares?
Yeah, that was one of those things I did have my eye on, wanting to go through and level the Demon Hunter to go and see if I could get that set and try it out, just because it looked amazing, and it's dual wielding one-handers and giving you that excellent survivability, which is something you normally don't do in hardcore.
Yeah, so bring your Demon Hunter and I can let you try them out. Oh wait. I also just recently found Hell Trapper last night, which is a one-handed crossbow that has a 9% chance to summon a spike trap, caltrops, or sentry upon enemy hit.
Yep.
I haven't even used it yet, and you said you had that and it was really fun. Did that change your build?
Yeah, that one. Well, that what was it? I had that one before they did this the last big patch that wiped all the characters, and along with the one-handed crossbow that made strafe free. So I was using both of those, and you just spinning through the screen, and everywhere was just dropping sentries, traps, and caltrops. It was tons of fun.
Yeah, I haven't tried that one yet. I probably will. I actually that one, the Denetas, the Krindershot, and the Hell Trapper. I found all three of those with decks and a socket and IAS on them already when I found them, which was the first three I've ever found in the entire beta like that. Which meant that I could use my enchant just to boost the DPS if I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to boost the damage roll. I mean, every other legendary I found on my characters. The way it is with items now in the game, you have to get a main stat and a socket for it to be viable in in-game gear. You know, I mean, with weapons.
Oh, yeah.
And usually you're spending your enchant to get one or the other. Usually the socket. And you're rolling 47 times to get a goddamn socket in your item, right?
Oh,
yeah,
God,
and then you end up being broke, and you have to go out and farm, so that way you can actually do it again.
And if you find them both, it's like the impossible dream. It's like I can just boost the damage on this, nothing else. So the Netta Spite I have is actually 2867.8 DPS on the weapon, which is a one-handed bow, which is actually the most DPS I've seen on any weapon in the entire beta, including two-handers, I believe. I mean, since they cut it all recently. Have either of you guys seen anything to 3,000 since the big the big nerf forever ago?
I know, but I have had I got it in the bank, but I think I have a 2.8k two-hander damage two-hander, but that's really the highest I've got without actually...
Yeah, and it's probably 1.1 attacks per second, right? This bow is 1.68, which is just crazy.
Wow.
So
yeah, okay.
I had to give up damage going to the Krindershot, but it was worth it. Paper damage,
Right.
but obviously it was worth it with elemental arrows nonstop.
Oh yeah, that's like free gimme right there.
And so obviously this is kind of a Demon Hunter skewing topic because I've found these three for my Demon Hunter recently, but there are items that do similar things for every class. There's orbs and there's mojos and there's quivers that add special skills. I found a unique quiver that I think it adds 27% chance for Hungering Arrow to pierce, which I haven't even gotten to use because it didn't roll with CC. But I mean, you can imagine that. It's basically doubling your piercing chance for one skill. And there's stuff like that for every other class in the game. There's things that cut the cooldown. My Crusader has a shield that cuts 47% off the cooldown for Heaven's Fury, which is huge. I mean, I can almost keep it up full time with that and with a couple of other cooldown reductions.
Yeah, for those that don't know, the Heaven's Fury is the God Beam. That's very powerful. Not as broken as it once was, but it still is an insanely powerful move.
Yes, I use the triple stream one, and I just basically cast that constantly, and it's just there's always 3 streams dealing whatever it is, 1400 DPS or something per second.
Yep.
And it's free basically, except for the cooldown. And if you get that that with your cooldown reductions, and every class has this stuff. So I think that a lot of what our ideas of what characters are and how they're built now. I mean, I totally changed my Demon Hunter yesterday. She was already doing really well. I could do T2 with her solo pretty effectively. And now I'm just face rolling Torment 1 with her. I mean, it's just ridiculous how easy it's gotten. I actually need to add a little more defense. Because I can just stand still and Elemental Arrow nonstop and everything dies.
Yeah, and since we're on that topic now, the Crusader weapon that I mentioned that the devs were using on the live stream, it was a flail that completely removed the cost for the wrath cost for Blessed Shield. So they could, just sit there and Captain America away, spam the shield indefinitely because it didn't cost any wrath.
What does it usually cost for our listeners?
20.
So it's a lot.
It's annoying.
I mean, it's not like it's a 4 or something.
Yeah, no, it's you have base only have 100 wrath, so you can chuck 5 before you actually have to go through and start generating again. So this one, it's rather significant reduction. It's a pretty hard-hitting skill, so for AoE at least, it's not as good single target, but it's amazing for clearing groups.
Especially if the group is further away, just out of your reach, and you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna throw my shield at the stragglers because I do that all the time. Love it.
It's just fun.
That too.
Yeah, so I think that everything we think about builds now, if people are just sort of saying, well, I'm just going to add a little DPS, that's kind of what you do until you start to find these fairly rare items. You get into Torment, or they're just really rare drops. And it's like, okay, this is changing my entire character now, and I can change 10 other items and my Paragon Points completely. And this kind of stuff really happens a lot once you start to get geared up. So I think that's going to be adding a lot of fun to the game, a lot of depth that we don't really see on the superficial level of only playing for a month in the beta before we get wiped. But long term, want.
Yeah.
Indeed.
You're going to have tons of different options available to you, and you're just swapping out a couple pieces of gear to change how you play.
And then you die, and they're all gone because you're hardcore. Oh.
I'm never. I don't know if I'll ever. I might try hardcore once, but just to me, yeah, I'm going to be the softcore nub here. Just the fact that all that work, one death, you're done. I just can't wrap my hand around it. It's just, sorry.
Since he doesn't play hardcore, is he allowed on the podcast again?
I'll go make a hardcore
He was an emergency last-minute fill-in, so that's why.
Okay, I'll
No,
go
actually, I'm not playing hardcore in the beta, so am I to talk to? Got my damn near 2,000 DPS Demon Hunter. You can go to hell with your hardcore. She's strong. I'm not letting her die. I've been building her for months.
See, you one death and you're done. It's like, oh, that worked for nothing. I couldn't do it.
Man, there's been lots of deaths. So, related topic of gear progression is legendary items and legendary rings and amulets. And they recently changed the enchanting cost of those in an interesting way. It used to be it was gold that would increase. Now there's no gold cost, but it requires a flawless Imperial gem, which you make from 9 marquees and 900k. Although you can occasionally find some Imperials to save you a little bit of that price, but basically speaking, it's 900k a pop. And that's forever. And I just recently had an amulet on my Demon Hunter that I rolled, I don't know, 15 or 20 times before I finally got the mod I wanted on it, which was 10% CC, and now it's there, so now I'm happy. But it took forever to do that, so I spent like 10 million gold on this amulet, but it didn't increase in price, and the bottleneck, of course, is the gems. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't a bottleneck at this point because I had 500 gems stacked up from 2 months of the beta. But if you get that item when the game starts and you're not building up your gems forever, it's going to be really interesting where it's a devaluation of gold and an increasing importance on gems. So asking you guys, what do you think about that change for enchant costs? And have you got tons of gems stacked up and nothing to do with them? But can you imagine if you didn't have those gems, how that would matter?
I got so many gems. I've got like at least 200 of each gem thanks to the beta. When I first saw that, though, I was like, wait. Is this plus gem that I have no gold? I got a lot of gems, but the gold I'm really poor with.
You could just sell them in the auction house.
Wait. Right?
Mm-hmm. You're learning.
I never use the auction house. Oh, I take that back. I used it early on, but then I just got burnt out.
Well, you're not going to either, so.
Yeah.
So how is your gems versus your gold, Neinball, and have you done enchanting on jewelry?
I've not done much enchanting on jewelry. But that is something that I do like as a system because, one, obviously it puts the emphasis back on items than it does the actual gold itself, which is, one of the things that they attempted to do with Reaper and everything going self-found. And the other side of it is it also gives you incentive to want to play in the tournaments. It was broken for most of the beta where the Imperial gems weren't dropping. But now, I believe they fixed that, and so you have the chance of having the Imperials drop while playing in tournament instead of the Marquise. So that will save you, not only just the time of having to go through and pick up the additional gems, but it saves you the money of not having to combine them up.
You can get them in Master now as well, and it seems to be about the same drop rate. I can just fly through Master if I play my Demon Hunter, and I'll get like 2 or 3 Imperials per game. Which is about this. You get maybe 1 or 2 more in tournament, but obviously it's a little more challenging. Mm-hmm. But even so, Imperials are still. That's only saving you 200k. That's 3 marquee and 200k. So it's not like it's some huge difference in defines.
Unless you're more like me, and that's really big, though.
Well, it helps. I mean, I've been completely broken the beta for a month,
right.
And I've been, hand to mouth all this stupid amulet. I was so happy I finally got the amulet. I could start saving up gold to upgrade some gems in my armor and stuff. You get those higher level gems, makes a really big difference in how much damage you're adding with your main stat and such. But
yeah, speaking of gems and upgrading it and things, I actually got a gold skin that rolled some fantastic stats with I enchanted rolled it and it gave me a 3 sockets. I'm like, ooh, great. Now I have to spend 2 or 3 nights saving gold and gems and creating 3 strength gems, but it was worth it.
So the point I was going to get to there was legendary rings and amulets. Legendary rings have a kind of a bad reputation currently in the beta because almost all of them are junk. I'm actually using 1 legendary ring that I found so far on all my characters, and I found at least 20. And that's a Unity that I have on my Witch Doctor, which is in Unity because it has a giant roll. Mm-hmm. But I've only seen very few others being used. I know of Zappafan is using a Bolcathos on his Barbarian. And the problem with most of the legendary rings is that they roll with 2 or 3 inherent stats, and those usually aren't the trifecta stats. It'll be, damage per hit or regen or Resol or whatever. And usually on rings especially, you want to go trifecta, quadfecta stats. You want main stat, IAS, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage are the ones you really want, or else plus damage. And the big 3 really now are main stat and the 2 critical hit and critical chance are the ones that really make a difference. And then you want to tack on IAS or damage if possible as well. And that's easy to get with rares because you find hundreds and hundreds of rare rings and you can gamble them pretty cheaply. and it's really tough with legendaries. And I was concerned. I actually was emailing a developer about this, saying everyone just throws away legendary rings. They're not any good. No one likes them. You never get them with trifectas. And his reply was basically that trifectas are kind of overvalued now because they're too easy to get on rares, and they don't want to make it the only thing that matters.
Mm-hmm.
But that long term, you will find enough legendary rings, and some of the higher level ones have the legendary, have true trifecta stats on them, and you can either enchant or find a lucky roll with the other one. And the reason I kind of takes my opinion on this to agree with him is when I looked at all the gear on the stream characters the Blizzard guys are using. They're all generated gear with high level stuff, and they have multiple trifecta, quadfecta rings and amulets, legendaries that I've never seen. So obviously you play it for 5 or 6 months or whatever, you will eventually find some of these spectacularly good legendary items. And currently the system where the legendary rings suck in the early going is working as intended, more or less.
That is an interesting way of looking at it. I know that problem is a bit scaled up, from rings, especially with amulets, given how many different things that you can roll on amulets. So it's really hard to get
dozens.
Yeah, it's really hard to get the one particular stat that you're missing, and as opposed to just farming and getting it on the rares.
And it's hard to get it on rares, but you find so many rares that the law of averages.
Exactly.
And I actually had some fantastic luck. If you guys look at my Crusader, I've got the Avarice band. I don't think I've ever had a ring any better. There's yellows that have some better stats here and there, but it had it has the damage, it has the strength, it has it's IAS, it has crit hit, chance. It was just like perfect. I haven't really found something really good since then. Just random rares here and there.
So question for you, Neinball, on legendary rings especially. A lot of them that you find early on have like 400 main stat, 400 vit, crit, IAS or crit chance, one of the two basically, or crit damage sometimes, and then like some other thing like life per hit. And those aren't what you want in softcore because you're really going for all quadfecta DPS stuff on your rings.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously another 400 vit or 100% resol is a pretty good bonus if you can't ever die. So it almost seems like legendary rings and amulets early on are better in hardcore than in softcore. Have you used any of those?
Yeah, I had a Unity that I was using for a while, and just I found since it primarily is just DPS, I did find a rare ring to replace it. But other than that, I have a Nagil ring that rolled Vitality and All Resist, and was just such a huge toughness bonus. I couldn't help but start using it.
Yeah, I think the toughness bonuses are a little more attractive in hardcore, obviously, because it matters. I think it's mainly just the issue with rings, because you find most of your armor and stuff, and you're happy to get Resol and Vitality and stuff, but because of course you can't get critical hit damage or critical hit chance or whatever on those items. So
yep.
Another issue you're playing you're playing your wizard some previously, and you've gone to Demon Hunter some. I mentioned this to John on the podcast we were doing. Is the secondary stat benefit of intelligence and strength is much bigger than what you get from dexterity, and he basically agreed with that and said they're going to make some changes probably.
Yeah,
but
he mentioned something like they made it to where they added some attacks like the bees from the wasp that are now dodgeable and such.
And he mentioned they might just have like a passive that would give you like a 30% damage reduction to stuff. He basically called it stuff on the ground, molten and plagued and arcane and stuff you can't really avoid very easily, that you really get punished by. But it doesn't make that. It makes a difference in Diablo 3, where a good character's got 3,000, 4,000 main stat, but you get 7,000 or 8,000 main stat in Reaper of Souls now. My Demon Hunter is around 8,500, I think, and that is if you're a wizard or a witch doctor, that's 850% res all, right? Okay, not percent, but it's 850 res all, and that's meanwhile your Demon Hunter has 77 intelligence or something, so. If you look at a comparable witch doctor or wizard compared to any other class now, they're like 800 more resistance, which is obviously pretty big. It certainly devalues the need for resistance on other gear or on Paragon points. And then obviously strength for Crusaders and Barbarians get huge. Do you think this is an issue in terms of long-term character building? Is there just too much of an advantage for some characters, or can they make some tweaks to dodge, it'll be okay?
I think that really does come down to just, one of the inherent problems with dodge as a mechanic, that looking at the really big picture and you map it out linearly on over 1,000 attacks or whatever, it can compete with the other ones, but in actual practice it doesn't work out. And whether they're going to add, for I guess the demon hunters and the monks, they get the additional damage bonus against stuff on the ground, making it so that way it has an effect on all the damage in the game. And even if it isn't just a linear or like a binary, you either negate all the damage or you don't negate any of it, and make it just kind of like a passive damage reduction for everything that you are, for passive of all the incoming damage, like armor or like resists, in order for it to compete. But I mean, monks were in a very good position at the end of vanilla, so that it's not like they were really detrimental too much, from the dodge mechanic. It was more of the skill balances that separated them and barbarians. So we'll see.
And they took care of barbarians, so now we're even.
Yeah, there you go.
I actually feel my monk's a little underdamaged. Actually, I haven't played him much lately, but I was feeling like he's slower than even my barbarian, who has less quality gear. But that's another issue. I haven't played him enough lately and experimented with different builds. But so the whole thing with the secondary effects of main stats is really becoming clear, especially with socketing, because now a highest level gem gives you 280 to your stat. And if you're playing a wizard or a witch doctor, there's no way in the world you're not putting topaz in everything. Whereas other classes have to often think about putting in diamonds. And my demon hunter's got 3 diamonds socketed in her gear. If I didn't have that, I would have another an 800 main stat. So because I need that 200 resistance, because I'm playing on tournament too, and if you have I have like 700 800s in resistances. I'd be 1600 if I were a witch doctor or a wizard. And that's just a really, you get a fire chains or a molten or something, I have to get the hell out of that almost instantly. And it's much more margin for error if I had the main stat, and you're getting obviously a damage bonus from that as well as a resistance. So it's you mentioned that a new gold skin you found, Holyknight. You're going with rubies in that. How is your survivability, and did you think about diamonds?
Survivability is doing.
This is on your Crusader, by the way.
Yeah, the survivability is doing pretty good. I do have 2 diamonds. I got one in the shield and I got one in the pants, as well as I got 2 sockets, 1 diamond, 1 strength. But I'd like to actually not have to have, diamonds to do whatever, but the survivability is so much better now that I did get that gold skin and all the stats on it, though, because I was actually pretty squishy. I did do an experiment with Torment one time, and that was frightening.
But that's also very clear in Paragon Points, where it's Paragon Points kind of work the other way, where you can spend 20 Paragon Points to get 100 Resol or 100 to your main stat. And yet items have routinely 400, 500 to a stat or to vit, and only 100 resistance. So if you're gonna look for adding Resol, you do it with Paragon Points versus adding stats with Paragon Points currently. So that's one area where it's kind of, I don't imagine there's a lot of wizards or witch doctors who are putting Paragon Points into Resol, because why?
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of an equalizer, and there's nothing else in that tab that's hugely desirable. Area damage and stuff is in that one. But on the whole, I do wonder if they might need to make some changes too. I guess you can just, if I was playing a hardcore demon hunter, I'd probably be using God, what's the passive that gives you 10% discipline?
Perfectionist.
Perfectionist, yeah. I'd be using that instead of something else that I'm using for DPS. But that's just, if you have to value survivability, it's nice to have a class where you get that from your main stat as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that just means we need dodge to be better. So anyway, we've beaten that point to death. Any last thoughts on classes? You guys have only been playing a couple of them. Are there others you wish you were playing more of? Are you saving yourself for the launch? What is your plan, Holyknight? Is your monk going to be alone forever?
Oh, I'm going to get her to 70, and get her there, and then once she's 70, Crusader, go all the way to 70, and then we'll just kind of go from there. I might work on my barbarian a little bit too, and probably even the mage a little, or excuse me, wow, my wizard a little bit. Sorry, Panda. But the main plan is just the monk.
So
first.
is that now, or do you mean after launch?
After launch, because I pretty much did that here in beta, where I did the monk first, and then did the Crusader. So I'm going to do pretty much the same thing like that again.
So it's March 25th at 12:01 in the morning. What are you doing? You're playing your monk from 60 to 70?
Yes. And if I don't know, I might flip a coin and say maybe that or Crusader, but I think I'll definitely just do the monk first and get her.
Well, obviously the Crusader is going to be level 1 to start with,
yeah.
So I guess it depends on what's your priority. What are you doing, Neinball? What are you playing now, and what is your plans for after the launch?
Well, in the beta, I've been putting most of my time into the Crusader, and a little bit on the Demon Hunter and the Wizard. I've not played the monk because I want to save that for live, because that was my main, through most of, or pretty much all of Classic. But on launch, I'm going to go through and just hunker down and play Crusader.
You're gonna take in as a hardcore or softcore?
Hardcore.
So you're gonna go hardcore Crusader to 70 and then try to farm him to build up your values.
We'll see. It's just kind of like just to play around. I do enjoy the class, though the damage is a little bit lacking. So I probably, I'll just do him for the effect. And I've sold a lot of my gear on my other characters, so it'll just be also kind of picking up some gear for the others on the way through. And then probably going through and playing from there. Definitely we'll be playing the monk once 2.0 hits before the expansion and get a feel for the class then. I also plan on, I don't have a hardcore barbarian, and I'll be leveling up one of those once the patch hits just to see what the experience is like.
Yeah, I've often I wouldn't know if I'd say regretted exactly, but when D3 came out, I played 3 different classes pretty much equally. I played a barb, a wizard, and a demon hunter, and kind of alternated my time between them. And as a result, none of them got to 60 and Inferno really quickly because I was doing 3 at a time and kind of trading gear between them. And in retrospect, I always thought I should have just played on one character, because if you play one character, you really do, the gear makes a big difference, especially in Reaper of Souls now that you can actually self-find.
Yeah.
If you put your time into one class, you really do steadily improve that class and finding. You can kind of trade, like you can play a barb and build up. You find other strength gear you can put on a Crusader and stuff, but it's really hard to cross-class farm now. And if you really focus that one time, and then you start getting deeper into the game and finding the better gear, and then you can kind of have trades, or else at least you build up some gems and stuff for other classes. And so I keep thinking I should just force myself to play one class instead of playing every class like I'm doing in the beta today, and like I did when D3 launched. But at the same time, I like to play a lot of different classes. I like to vary my play style. And I'm further conflicted because I'm enjoying the Demon Hunter so much now, but that's a softcore Demon Hunter, and she dies occasionally as I'm pushing myself in torments.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, you can't do that in hardcore. There's, even John sounded sympathetic to the whole death-preserving, the life-saving passive that the Demon Hunter doesn't have and other classes do. And if that goes in before the launch, that might change my opinion somewhat. But it's so fun playing a high DPS Demon Hunter now, and you really can't play it that way in hardcore, no matter what your gear is. You have to be a little more defensive. That I'm like, but I don't want to sink all this time into a softcore character. I mostly play hardcore, and all most of my gold and my other resources are in hardcore. So. Mm-hmm. First world problems.
Right.
Definitely.
But yeah, I have not decided yet. And I do think that I'll try to limit myself to one class, have a main for a month or so at least, just to try to build up some stuff. Or else build up my Hall of Heroes, one of the two.
One or the other is going to happen.
Yeah.
You're right.
I don't know if it'll be softcore. I feel a little less pressure now. I was playing softcore after D3's launch just to get a wider variety of whatever, and then eventually I transitioned to hardcore for like the last year pretty much exclusively. But some of my softcore characters were pretty crappy when ROS started compared to my hardcore character because I hadn't played them in forever. But you gear up so fast compared, the new gear compared to the old gear. You can so easily improve upon almost every single slot.
Yeah,
sure.
you could go in almost naked and not really be that detrimental. Just buying a couple yellows and blues off of the merchants. Make sure that you set it to normal, and a couple bounties in, you'll have replaced almost everything.
That's going to be what I do because I've sold every damn item I have on the auction house. So my 60s are pretty much naked, so they're going to be hitting the town vendors hoping for some yellows, I think, to start with. But we'll see how that goes. But I mean, the kind of the point is that because the beta is the full game except for the very end and all the classes, we've gotten the experience. I know what all the classes play like more or less now from the beta. So I don't have that need after launch to play every different class like I felt in Diablo 3.
Mm-hmm.
I can just concentrate on one, and I already kind of know what the others are from experiencing in the beta. So obviously, compared to the Diablo 3 beta, where all we had was Act 1 up to, the Skeleton King. What was it, level 15 was the cap, I think, or was it 13?
Yeah, I believe it was 13, yeah.
Yeah, so that obviously didn't give you a whole lot of sense of what anything played like long-term, whereas now we pretty much know everybody long-term. Unless, of course, you only play one character and you leave your monk to be alone like Holyknight does.
Yeah.
She's often her nunnery.
Mm-hmm. Meditating. That's what it is.
Okay. Oh, and last thing is we mentioned the launch party before we were recording. We didn't talk about any on the actual show though, I don't think. So I am lucky enough to be going. Blizzard invited me, and you're going Neinball. You managed to get a ticket, and you're paying your own way on Virgin Air.
Yes.
And you are not going Holyknight. Why don't you love Blizzard? Money? Money and time?
I just wish I could go with the just money. That I wish I had a higher income so I could actually just go just once, just experience it. But It's just the money problem is really what it is. I mean, I have plenty of time. I mean, it's just
Well, that's what we mentioned earlier. You said this is your only chance to go to Reaper of Souls launch party. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. This is the only
Yep.
Reaper of Souls
but-
launch.
This is once
But
in a lifetime.
once a
But you
lifetime for that.
meant any Blizzard launch, and you'll
Yeah.
probably get to go to some future one at some point. But
Yeah, for sure.
assuming they don't go out of business and start making Angry Bird or Flappy Bird or something.
Oh, good.
Would you go to a Flappy Bird launch party? Probably not.
No. What?
Neinball's like, I think about it. If it's in Tampa, I might go. They got some nice hotels there.
Oh, I grew up in Tampa, so if it was there, yeah, probably.
But of course, as I've been telling Holyknight, the silver lining, he gets to start playing Reaper of Souls at 12:01 a.m. on the 25th, assuming that the Error 37 doesn't come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Neinball and I will be drunk off our ass in LA at that point. So
Yeah, and I'm still another 7-hour plane flight away from getting back to my computer and even getting the game installed.
yeah, so there you go. You get a full day or two head start, Holyknight, and isn't that better than going to LA and hanging out at a launch party and meeting all the devs and getting a hand job? Probably not.
Totes.
I'd rather be there at the party.
You got the rest of your life to play Reaper of Souls, you know.
Right.
Yeah, well, but yeah, we have a big contest on the main page now. We have 25 tickets to the party to give away, and I'm actually going to be surprised if we have. I won't be surprised if we have trouble giving those out because, as you just said, Holyknight, it's travel, it's money, it's expense, it's one night. I don't know if we have 25 pairs of viewers in the Southern California area waiting for these tickets. So
Right.
it's probably going to be a lot of people who want to go but live in Norway or Sweden or New York or Florida or other godforsaken hellholes and can't attend.
Mm-hmm.
We always get BlizzCon tickets, and it's often tough to give those out, even though it's kind of a last minute thing usually. But hopefully we'll get enough people. So if you want to go and you're in the LA area or you can travel there, do check out the contest. I don't think we're going to have like 5,000 people. We're trying to divide these tickets between. There'll be a lot of people who are like, I'd love to go, but I can't. So
Right.
I think your odds of winning, if you can actually go, are going to be pretty good. And obviously there's other sites that are running giveaways as well.
Yeah, so
So there's
definitely
it's invite only.
tempting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's invite only, and you can't go without an invite, and you can't buy them anywhere. And I don't think they can even be scalped because it has to be in your name. But you're not going to be able to hang around the front door and go in on someone else's pass like at BlizzCon. Or maybe you will. Who knows? But it'd be kind of a sad thing to do, really. But you do get a free copy of the game and stuff, and that'll obviously be fun to look forward to. So that's a month from now, almost exactly. So excite.
Then
Excite?
you'll get the chance to have the devs sign it and such.
Right.
That'll increase the eBay value.
There you go. And what is your drink of choice, Neinball, at the open bar?
Normally, what is it at BlizzCon? I pretty much just survived on Heineken, though. Because if I start going into vodka, then things get interesting.
Well, they're supposed to get interesting. It's launch night.
Yes. So,
And will you be what is your first drink you'll be spilling on Bashiok?
let's just fall back on the Heine.
Yeah, do you want beer? Or do you want something that's stickier and kind of a tropical? I imagine he'll be pretty flavorful by the end of the night with all the people spilling drinks on him. like a cranberry margarita or something like that. It's kind of a sticky thing. Maybe not. I'm not recommending anyone spill drinks on Bashiok, by the way. Jay Wilson, maybe if you see him, but probably not Bashiok.
Well, that would be interesting. I would actually really like to see Jay Wilson there because I didn't see he wasn't at was he even at BlizzCon? I didn't see him or get mentions of him at all anywhere in that during the whole weekend.
Yeah, there's about 40 jokes I could make here, and I'm passing on all of them because I imagine Jake Wilson was busy working on other projects, and if he was there, he was probably keeping a kind of a low profile.
Yeah.
Whatever game he's working on is not being shown at BlizzCon yet, so why would he be there? I'm sure he was just enjoying it and taking in the community, and he loves the community, and they're really what makes the game worth making in the long run.
Yeah, because they, what is it? I guess going a little bit off topic here, but that's the job postings. They of course scrapped Titan, but now they have a bunch of new openings for unannounced game title. So they've got something else working on there, and I believe they've been doing some massive shifts around inside the Blizzard campus, and they've shut it down from tours and press events. That's why they did the recent press event this last week in San Francisco office instead of doing it at the main campus.
And the launch event obviously is not there. It's at a hotel in downtown LA, which is like 40 miles from their offices. So secret things, and they're very busy.
Yeah.
I was talking to Lyleria the other night at 3 a.m, and she was still at work. So gives you an idea how many hours they're putting in.
Yeah, because they're losing Vayflare. She's moving over to the Heroes of the Storm team.
Oh, good for them. Okay, we're going off topic here. Any last thoughts on the Reaper Souls, guys? You're just enjoying it, and you're wishing it was live already.
Definitely enjoying
Yeah.
it. Wish it was live, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's
Sooner.
yeah. I'm kind of taking a step back because it's like, well, if I play the beta, all of this is going to be useless, and then if I play on live, well, the new patch is coming out in 2 weeks, so it's like I feel like it's not as efficient of use of my time, so I just end up sitting there and playing Hearthstone.
And Panda. Panda.
And
And
pandas.
So,
Getting ready for
There's always
Pandemonium.
And you're going to Panda next thing as soon as we stop here, Holyknight, so good luck with that. And you've been listening to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at DiabloInkGamers.com, and moo.
No.
I forgot to moo on the John Yang stream. I'm still unhappy about that. I meant to moo at the
So
end.
disappointing.
you.
I'm sure he was hoping for a chance to. Moo.
No.